This is from Sarah Brady, who's in Poway, and then she's also Jules and Logan are also part of the group in Poway and Rancho Bernardo. And I said we posted pictures of them and the bike racks that they had created, and I chatted with Sarah about this. But she said, they keep taking away sort of our tactical urbanist projects. There's kind of this, sweep it away. Um, there's also opportunities to use petitions, but what are some other ways to begin to drive change in the community? Some way to partner with the city. What are some of the things that you would have for Sarah and her friends as they work at this?
First of all, let me just say I am familiar a little bit with some of the stuff that you've done, and it is very beautiful and very inspiring. So I hope you are not frustrated by, um, the lack of embrace by the city. This is very common. Don't be shocked by it. Let me walk you through the way that I would think about next steps here. Um, at Strong Towns, we've created this thing called the four-step approach. And the first step is to humbly observe where people struggle. I don't know if you've seen this or not, Sarah, or the rest of you are part of this group, but the four steps: observe where people are struggling. What is the next smallest thing we can do to address that struggle? Go out and do it, and then repeat the process over and over. Um, this is a lot of people like this because it sounds nice, it sounds good, but we really are serious about it and we really mean it, because some magical things happen when you go out and observe. A lot of times we start tactical urbanism projects with an idea of something we'd like to do. So, and this is not a critique of you personally. This is just in general human behavior. I've been down this path too. Boy, I really feel like there should be uh, benches at every bus stop. Boy, I really feel like there should be bike racks all over the place. And so what we do is we tend to focus on the thing that we think should be there, the thing we want to build, or maybe even the thing that we're good at building or good at delivering. Um, and then we run into resistance. The city comes out and is like, we're not down with this. Like we're gonna tear these out. And we saw like the good group in Bloomington, Illinois, deal with this with the bus stop. I mean, they went out to all these bus stops and built benches, and they were beautiful. They were great. And the transit authority went and took them all out because they were dangerous and all this. It just really, they were acting like a defensive government is what they were doing. By humbly observing, what we are doing is we are identifying not what we would like to see done, but we are identifying where someone is having a difficult time. And then by selecting a project, a step that fits that struggle, we're actually filling a narrative arc. Here's what we're doing, and here's why. And so now, when the conflict comes, okay, we're the city, we don't like this bike rack you put in. Well, here's 5 people who have used that bike rack. And here's their story. And here's why they found that bike rack to be indispensable and really important. So if you're going to take out this bike rack, like, how are we going to deal with this situation that we went and observed as being a problem, being a shortcoming? All right, you're going to take out these bus benches. Fine, they don't meet your whatever standard of a bus bench. But here's like a photo of 2 people standing at this bus stop, or here's a person that we talked to that was using this bench and saying, what a relief this is. I usually have to sit here and the bus is not very reliable. So sometimes I'm here for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's great to have a place to sit down. How do you deal with that? People who want to take out our benches. So what you are doing when you start with humble observation is you are, in a tactical sense, marrying your narrative to an action, or marrying your action to a narrative, so that you can, in a sense, point to and say, all right, here's like real humans that are involved in this. Here's real people's lives that are involved in this. So it's not an abstract of like 3 crazy people out doing things that the city is not okay with. It is you actually serving a need and then turning around to the city and saying, all right, if you don't like how we're serving this need, how do you serve this need? How can we help you serve this need? Because our focus is not bike racks. our focus is not bus benches. Our focus is people who don't know where to park their bike and they're parking them all over. People who are sitting and waiting on a bus for a long time and are getting tired and it's not, it's not okay. So you're able to raise the challenge and kind of bring the city along with you. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want is not for every local conversation to be out doing tactical urbanism everywhere. I mean, I think it's beautiful what you're doing. What we want is we want the local government to stop orienting vertically, stop looking up, and start humbly observing down and saying, all right, what are the struggles in our community? How do we address those? Who are our partners in helping us in this effort? And that's where you can be most helpful. The tactical urbanism stuff that you do always has to be educational in its outcome. If you're out doing projects that make your place better, that's great. But I'm going to say this, and I say this with a lot of love, it won't scale to the size of the problem that you're trying to solve. If what you're out doing is going to make the world a better place, and you can leverage that with your communication strategy, your network of people, people showing up at meetings on your behalf, if you can leverage it, now all of a sudden you can have a widespread change. And in a city like San Diego, where I think you all are working, it's easy for the city to like crush you and not care. I mean, it really is. And not even do it like in a malevolent way. It's just that you're like small and insignificant. The goal here should be to get a story, a narrative that you can get out, that the newspaper will start writing about and people start writing about, and that you can show up at the meeting with 50 people saying, all right, you didn't like our bike racks. Like, I get it. I understand. That doesn't mean that the need for something here goes away. How would you deal with that? And by the way, as the Strong Downs local conversation in San Diego, we're ready to help. Like, we don't want to be adverse to you. We want to help. This is a real problem. Here's like 5 real people. Here's 40 people behind me that are going to also, by the way, vote in the next election and care about this stuff that are here to support this. How do we help you solve this problem? Because it's a real problem. Does that make sense? Norm, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but that's, I love what you're doing. I think the next step is connecting it like that.
Yeah, I think the the part that stands out to me is certainly making sure to use it as an educational tool. Sometimes it's actually, I think one of the groups was doing it where they were hanging little stickers or little like pamphlets on it to be like, this is here because of this reason. Because otherwise it looks like just more stuff that has sort of popped up. And actually cities, when they do this, should do a better job of being able to demonstrate, we planted this tree here because it's in the right position. Sometimes they'll do a good job of telling you what species it is, but what about its role in the park? What about, that level of paying attention to the placement of these objects, these items? And I think that can be a value as well, even with if you do a bike valet as another type of like a tactical urbanist projects that some of the groups have done, where they go to a busy place and they'll say, we'll take care of your bikes for you. Making sure that there's a corresponding sort of educational component to it can be really valuable, and it engages people in conversations and they're like, oh, I've never even thought about that. And that goes a long ways in proving it. Another part of it is I do think that there's more value. I always say a petition is the least valuable thing to be engaged in because of the fact that it's so easy to generate signatures for things that lack context. You can put a fancy headline on something, but anything that actually needs the more nuanced question of how do we build a stronger place rarely seems to fit within the parameters of what a petition consists of. And so that's one of the encouragements, that when you go and meet that council member, they're really encouraged by the fact that they actually have some role to play with people that already have skin in the game. So I would certainly add that as well.
I
Uh,
feel like
yeah.
Norm, did you ever watch the video that Jason Roberts TED Talk? To me, is like one of the best examples of how to take tactical urbanism and make it work. 2015, maybe even TED Talk. But he showed how they went out and they did like a street, like they did a better block on an entire block. And they said, we're going to change this around. And one of the tactical things that they did is they invited their city council members to come see it. And of course, they made sure that it was all really positive, that they had like a band. I mean, they were doing a whole block like redo at one point. But I mean, they had like small businesses there in the shops. They had families out, sitting on the streets, seats. They had a little band playing music. It was like a street party. It was like a block party. It was tons of fun. All of it was illegal. Like none of it met the code. And they brought the city council members out there and they're like, isn't this awesome? Like these are your constituents. They're having a blast. They love this. Isn't this cool? And they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And they're like, yeah, we love it. We would love to bring this block is usually really junky. We would love to bring this block back. And wouldn't you? And the council members are like, yeah, this is fantastic. Imagine we did this. And they're like, yeah, okay, here's the 18 rules that we're breaking right now. And, we don't say this to like be in your face, but just to let you know that if you want this kind of thing to be permanent, here are the things we need to change in our code to do it. And oh, by the way, if you'll lead a process of changing these things in the code, we will help you not only identify what needs to be changed and how, but we'll show up at the meetings to support it so you can actually get it done. And then we can do this kind of thing permanently. And so it was melding that, what I'm going to say is like in your face activism, right? Like here we're going to go out and do something that is kind of a little bit provocative and a little bit like pushing the boundary, but you're marrying it with kindness and generosity and openness and a dialogue and this like positive, hey, we're here to be part of the solution.